All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Launchpad Podcast. It is your host, of course, Gabriel Hardy, and in this episode today, I had my buddy Jeremy Fish on. Some people might know him as Lowkey Fish. He has this YouTube channel where he has tried over 150 different drugs and supplements, and he does a really good job of doing a sort of comprehensive breakdown of these supplements, the pharmacological action of them, the sort of receptor side activity, all of the different cross reactivity with different substances, his personal experiences with them. So I highly recommend going and checking out his channel if you have any sort of, if you're curious about any of these sort of reviews. He actually did just a really badass review of our Amanita muscaria products for Minnesota Nice, so you should go check that out. All of his stuff will be down in the description below, but in this conversation today, we talked about a lot of things. It was a really fun conversation. We ended up talking about a bunch of different drugs and supplements that he has tried. We talked about his personal journey and how he sort of got to this point of doing this, because when you create a YouTube channel, the average person doesn't know this, but when you create a YouTube channel and you create videos like Jeremy does, it takes a considerable amount of time. So there's a lot of energy and life force that goes into what he's doing, and I think it's really cool. We talked about like MDMA and neurotoxicity. We talk about different supplement stacks. We talk about the music festival scenes. So yeah, I've watched this guy's content for years, so it's really cool to get to connect with him. I hope that you guys enjoy the episode. Thank you for tapping back in. Go and check out our company, Minnesota Nice Ethnobotanicals, down in the description below. The best Amanita, Blue Lotus, Kava Kana products on the market. But yeah, other than that, have a beautiful day. Peace out and much love.
Nice to meet you, Gabe. My name is Jeremy Fish. You can most people call me Fish, but both Jeremy and Fish are both my names. So
yeah, it's nice to meet you, dude. I've watched your content for fucking years.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, like I don't know. I should have gone back and looked, but I don't know when you started this shit, man. Because like I feel like I've seen you around for several years.
I feel like so I started technically in 2010. Like that was my first YouTube channel. But when I really wanted to get serious, I started my current channel that I have right now, which is I started that in 2020. It was the same month I graduated college. I started this YouTube channel because my degree was like, I don't know. I wanted to pursue YouTube and see what's up with it. So you know what I mean?
What did you graduate in, man?
So my major was sport and exercise psychology. That's a pretty narrow field though. So I also minored in psychology and sociology and communication. And so I was in school from 2016 to 2020. And then that's when I graduated.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was in school from 2018 to 2023. I did like a little jail stint in the middle of that. That's why it took me the extra year. But
What'd you get caught up with?
drug trafficking. Yeah, drug trafficking psilocybin mushrooms and drug trafficking DMT.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. I ended up doing like it was a little over 7 months, still on papers and stuff like that for it.
In jail?
But yeah, I did like 7 months.
Jesus, dude. No bail?
Yeah. Well, like whenever I first got popped, I had to do 36 days because originally the only bond that they would give me was $20,000 cash. Like it couldn't be any 10%. You couldn't put any property up or anything like that. And it took several court hearings for them to give me a property bond. So it took 36 days for me to get out originally. And then whenever I got sentenced later on, they decided to make me sit down for 6 months. And so that's what I did. But
damn, bro.
Yeah, dude, it was challenging, but like I look back on it with a lot of gratitude. It's a very fundamental like piece of who I am and kind of like, and so I asked you like what you graduated with, man, because like, I remember like whenever I graduated with a business degree, a business administration, which isn't like a bad degree, but it reminds me a lot of like the other degrees out there, unless it's like a doctor degree or a nursing degree, or you're on the lawyer path, some very direct path. I don't want to say the college thing is a waste, but like, dude, like for a lot of people, it can become a real trap. And like, I remember this feeling like when I came out of college and like trying to like go into the job market, it was very hard for me. It was very much a learning moment. Cause like I had been told my entire life and kind of been put on this treadmill, the American treadmill. You know, you're like, oh, and you're kind of told it's like this Goldilocks zone, just like graduate college. If you just put your nose down and graduate college, like things will be okay from you. And like as me and you both know, that's not exactly the case. And
Yeah.
whenever I that was when I really buckled down on like, you know, I had already went to jail for selling these things, and I was super interested in these things, taking these things, and it was like, well, I'm not going to sell them anymore. That's not how I want to be affiliated and associated with this, and I don't want to take that risk anymore. So I just started creating a bunch of YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff like that. And now I actually own part of a company, Minnesota Nice, and we sell Amanita muscaria, kava, blue lotus, and all this shit. And it's funny because like that degree, that business degree, really didn't do shit for me, man. It was me getting out there and like podcasting with people and like networking and like just you know, the YouTube thing. That was like how I like, and you know, of course I'm very young. I'm sure a lot can change and will change, but it's like the American treadmill that I was put on was such a trap that took me so long to realize. And it was like the YouTube is really kind of like liberated me in this weird way. Yeah.
Dude, I feel that, man. It's especially when people come, they go from like Nebraska to Alaska to get a puppetry degree. Like that shit ain't gonna work. It's just a waste of money, especially if you pay out of state for college. It's luckily I had a loophole that allowed me to pay in state because I grew up in Maryland, but then I went to West Virginia University. And so I got in state there, which saved me like 60% of my tuition every semester, which was really good. But yeah, it's unfortunate how the American treadmill, like you were saying, where you just it's like this never ending cycle of trying to work your way up, but you're so everything's against you. And especially when you go to college and you pay all this money for college and then you get out and you get like a job that's like 40K a year when you were paying 40K a year to go to college, it just doesn't really make sense, especially for a business degree, like what you were saying. That's really just like a default degree that people kind of get. It's not, it's the real way to do business is to go out into the world and do business. If you go to college, you may learn stuff, but it's not going to help you start your business. You have to do that yourself.
Yeah, and that was the crazy part, man, is like once I got into business and actually started doing business things, I realized like I didn't learn a lot about business from business school. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to kind of like learn it on the fly and like learn as I went, and like it was yeah, dude, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. But
Dude,
so
so going to jail like that definitely builds character. I would assume at least. I've never been to jail, never got caught. That's why. But like it's because some people brag about going to jail. It's like, yo, that's cool. I didn't get caught though. But I feel like it does build character from an outside perspective.
I think it can. Like I said, I look back on it with like a lot of gratitude. Like I choose to have that like mindset about it, and I think that for a lot of people, it does end up being that it can. What's really sad to me, like after like having been in and like through that system, man, what really became sad to me was that I saw that this is like not just for myself, but like anybody in my shoes or similar circumstances, the people I was in there with. It's like this is a radical opportunity. This is an opportunity in which we could really make some radical changes with these people. Like really, like they're almost very malleable when they're put in that state. Yet the sort of like incentive structure behind it all, in the way that our resources are delegated, in the way that people are incarcerated, the way that they're punished, and the whole system around it, it doesn't really breed for a lot of people breaking out of it. And in fact, it seems to further the sort of poverty trap that a lot of people have gotten themselves into or were put in. And it's sad to me, man. And there is a lot of people out there doing a lot of good work trying to help rehabilitate these people, and there is some good programs and things like that. But most like fucking jail systems, prison systems are, it's most of it is prison for profit, you know. And you see
Yeah.
that when you're in there, dude. Like I told you, I was in there for 36 days before I had gotten my a reasonable bond that I could afford to get out. Mind you, they had charged me for some shit where they haven't proven me guilty yet. You know, but in this country, it's essentially you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent because they've charged you for it. So they charged me for this shit. I haven't been proven guilty yet, but I'm held there against my will for 36 days at this fucking jail until I can make bond. And during those 36 days, they charged me $30 a day for being there, which I had to pay once I got out. So it was over $1,000 basically rent bill for being held there against my fucking will. And then like it's not even just that, man. When you're in there, right? Say I wanted to have a 15-minute phone call with my son on the fucking payphone where I can only hear what he's saying half the time. Each 15-minute phone call was like $5, right? But here's the extra fucked up part. If you were somebody who owed them money, like say how I had that $1,000 bill from them from my 1 month stay, if you're somebody who owed them money, they would charge you double for everything. So say you wanted to talk to your kid for 15 minutes on this fucking hazy ass phone that they won't even fix, they're going to charge you $10. If you want a jar of peanut butter about that big, they're going to charge you $12 instead of $6. And mind you, like you can't work in these places. If you can work in the kitchen, they're going to pay you $14 a month, you know? So it's your family is recouping all of this fucking like commissary money and trying to talk to you on the phone. And like most of these families are already impoverished, and it's like the man of the family whose fucking 3 kids are still out there with his single wife, and his wife is trying to like, you know, take care of them while he's like just it's such a and I you could see the emotion kind of come out of me talking about it right now. And it's because, man, like I saw it felt almost like bullying, you know, like these people are down bad, like truly down bad. Most of them are just mentally ill. That's what most of it is. Like 90% of people in jail, probably more than that, just mentally ill, dude. Like really just needed to be loved more as children, need more exercise, need less fucking seed oils, you know, like it's fucking crazy, dude. And yet we continue to torture them and fucking like punish them for not being good enough. And like, I, it really bothers me, man. And I do think that that's something I would like to spend my life force at some point trying to like positively contribute to. It's like, how do we, I think we give those motherfuckers mushrooms, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a magic bullet, but I think it would be a big shift for a lot of them.
If you gave them some mushrooms, that could be a form of reform. I mean, they could have some introspection in their life, and maybe that would reform them in a way so they wouldn't find themselves in jail continuously over the course of their lifetime.
Yeah, and like that thing you said about building character, I think that it definitely does for a lot of people. And I think that's a beneficial aspect of it. It's like just going through something difficult, coming out the other side of it. A lot of times you'll be more peaceful and equanimous, you know what I'm saying? But like there's a lot of people who go into there, it's like they almost come out worse. You know,
Yeah,
because like you come out and you have more criminal connections than you ever had before you went in. And also, a lot of people develop really bizarre, bad addictions in there because you're essentially just in hell. That's what jail is. It feels like hell. And what's offered to you in terms of psychoactivity to get you out of it is like the guy who can sneak in the Suboxone strips or the spice from his fucking divorce packet. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so a lot of people develop these really, really detrimental, nasty addictions in there as well too. Um,
I hear about them
yeah, dude.
smuggling all sorts of shit, even just heroin, like hard shit, or even a phone. They get phones in there too somehow.
Yeah, and it really depends on like the facility, but it shows you like the fact that that is so commonplace and widespread shows you that the it further highlights the absurdity in the fucking war on drugs. The fact that like even in our prison system, like you can't stop it. You know, like it's
I think
um
two things, major prominent factors of the war on drugs that allows it to continue and seemingly there's no end in sight is one, it keeps prisoners in jail. It's an easy way to just lock up the lower class of people for the most part. Everyone, I would say, does drugs, even if it's just caffeine or whatnot. But still, the lowest class of people are usually the ones that find themselves in jail the most, particularly for drugs a lot of time. And then the second reason is big pharma. It's there's just a lot of money into it. There's a lot of lobbying. Big pharma is not going away anytime soon, and so that's the second prominent reason I would assume that people keep finding themselves in jail,
yeah, dude.
and
Have
and,
you
and the fact that war on drugs is still a thing.
yeah, the have you ever heard of a gentleman called Dr. Carl Hart?
Carl Hart, I don't know if that rings a bell.
You would love this cat. He became my hero during one of my acid trips. One time I was like focused on this dude and his like right, but he has a book called Drug Use for Grown-ups. You would love this book, dude.
I know this guy.
Y-
Doesn't he actively talks about his heroin usage?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay.
he's not a heroin addict, but
I
he's
know,
a
but
heroin user. He
yes, he
like
used it
he likes
responsibly.
heroin. He's still a professor or whatever. And he likes heroin. He's like, yep, I do it recreationally sometimes, whenever the fuck I want to, and that's my business. And
I
I'm like,
respect that.
I do too. It's and I respect it not at just at that surface level. I respect the full matrix around the sentiment he's pushing out. You know what I'm saying? Like
Facts.
he his book, if you haven't read the book, dude, I really recommend it. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But he spent like his entire career as an academic studying addiction, and he himself came from like a very impoverished area of Florida where there was a lot of like crack cocaine and other types of addiction. And he was really convinced and spent a lot of time like trying to figure out like what do we do about like drugs are addictive, drugs are the problem. And it became very evident to him very quickly like, oh, it's not drugs that are the issue. What the issue is these. And when you look kind of like what you were describing, like when you said, I think the kind of why this keeps happening is these two issues. And I think you're absolutely correct. It's the incentive structures behind all of it. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. Yeah.
When you look at like why do we keep doing this? It's because whenever I went to fucking jail as a fucking 19-year-old dude, like taking a lot of mushrooms, selling mushrooms to other consenting adults who wanted mushrooms, like whenever I went to jail for that, I spent 10 grand on a fucking lawyer, right? So that lawyer within the whole economy of it all got 10 grand right there. And then the fucking jail, of course, got that over $1,000 for the 30 days I was there. Then mind you, once I become guilty and become like an actual state inmate or whatever there at their jail, they're getting paid by the state now that 6 months that I was there. They're getting $12 for this jar of peanut butter from me, even though it cost them probably 90 cents, it's a crazy, it's all of it. So like, and there's people who have literal stock in prisons. You know what I mean? Like it's a very lucrative, like, and it's one of the safest things to put your money in terms of an investment, because for such a long time it's been pretty consistent. Like, no, we're going to make sure we keep, it's not just that lawyer or the jail. It's also think about all the judges, right? The judges, and also think about all the police officers who have to be employed so they can keep chasing down these people who are possibly doing drugs somewhere or whatever, um, it's
The whole system.
yeah. And so people don't like to hear this, especially because a lot of people, and I think most of this happens unconsciously. I truly do. But a lot of people operate and make their fucking living out of the system, and essentially by bullying and extracting money from people who are already poor. You know what I'm saying?
And it's a
Like,
never-ending cycle. It's the treadmill of
yeah.
poverty at that point.
And I'm not saying like that single lawyer or single judge or single police officer or whatever is the issue. Like, yeah, you're right. If they get out of it, it's not like the system's going to stop. You know what I'm saying? That's probably
Right.
how they justify it to themselves too. I think a lot of them don't even fully bring to the conscious level the fact, and like everything that I was just alluding to, that the reason why some of these people stay poor and sick and imprisoned is because we've literally set up the system to be that way. And they don't want to accept that they're a part of that system. But yeah, I in the healing of that, that's what I wonder about. Like I'm not just some like angry person about it. I think there's a lot of anger to be had about it that's valid. But like, how do we heal that as a collective and get better? You know what I mean? Um,
It's an interesting question because it's a whole web of issues that you'd have to attack each one separately.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's unfortunate though that there's so many. It's and they pay you like 90 cents an hour or whatever.
They find different forms of it. It essentially comes down to like slave labor, and it's not that, because I will say this about like there is certain programs and certain facilities and things that are trying to do better and that are doing better, and like I think that that's beautiful. And there's certain ways in which like people are able to, maybe they do make 90 cents an hour while they're in the jail, but they're like working in such a way where they're learning an actual valuable skill that they can take with them outside of the facility and help them better reintegrate into society. And I think that's great. Like, I think we need more of that,
That's
but
the hope,
yeah,
that
but
most of them get something out of it rather than just a mind-numbing task, repetitive task. Hopefully
right.
they do get something out of that.
Well, have you ever seen like the rat park studies when it comes to like addiction, man?
I have not, I don't think.
So it's like some of the most like fundamental, really illuminating sort of scientific research, I think, around like addiction. And of course, there's a lot of problem with like mice studies, but I just, whenever I lay this out for you, I think you'll intuitively feel the same way I did. Like this seems to resonate within people too. But like they did this study on mice and addiction where they had mice in like a certain cage, like just a normal cage that was really bland, really shitty, just the basic things, very gray. And they're isolated too. And they were giving them heroin. And in this environment, these mice would go and get this heroin from this little dropper bottle. Imagine like the water bottles they give them.
Right,
It's like
right.
that. It was a similar kind of feeding situation, but for heroin. And these things would go and take the heroin until they died. But whenever, and it was this
Voluntarily?
whole, yeah, they would go and voluntarily take the heroin until they died. You know what I'm saying? And like this, they would develop addiction and and sliver away into that addiction. And they were about to conclude the studies and be like, yeah, you see, like heroin, like or whatever, like it's addictive. I forget the original intentions behind it, but then somebody was like, hey, how about we like try something here? And so they gave them the same thing. They gave them a cage with the same sort of access, unlimited basically access to heroin, but they built a beautiful park for them, like beautiful place for them to live with all sorts of different activities and things to do and like all sorts of different ways to work out and
With the heroin is available too?
yeah, and the heroin's still available, and they had fresh plants, and they had women which they could breed with, and all these different things, and they found that these mice still went and took heroin, but they didn't do it to the point of death. It was very much just kind of much more selective. Like, and I've noticed this within myself and with other people that I've known and love who have dealt with addiction, where it's like, man, when I'm in the flow state and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I have a good environment, and like don't get me wrong, after maybe 6, 8, 10 hours, like I will need a joint, but there's not that like propensity, just like, what I'm saying? But if my environment is shitty and I don't enjoy my life and you know what I'm saying? Like I am much more likely to whatever that thing is, whether it be cannabis or ketamine or what have you, to just ride that further into the kind of like pits where, and like,
It's all about
yeah, dude.
self-control, bro.
Yeah, and I think like for myself, one thing I've had to come to with the whole addiction thing, it kind of like the rat park is like, okay, why am I wanting to do this right now, right? The intentions and all of that. But like, okay, if I do feel shitty, it's like, why do I feel shitty? Because ultimately I feel like even like at this point, it's like I'm not like a king or anything, but I feel like when I really look at it and I'm true and I'm honest with myself, I have everything I need. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Most people
but
do. On a very basic level. Most people do.
yeah, and like I felt like so for a long time, I realized part of it took me a long time to come to the realization that a lot of my addiction came down to I had my normal life was something that I didn't like showing up for. Like I
What
hadn't really
what were you
crafted.
what were you addicted in particular to?
I've gone through different phases. I went through a really interesting phase that, like, when I meet other people who went through the same phase, there's sort of like a weird brotherhood around it. But I was a Robitussin guy from like
Interesting.
18 to 19. There was definitely this weird, and I say addiction. It wasn't like, where it was more of a psychological addiction, but definitely addiction. That was an interesting one.
So is it
Yeah,
because it's just like easily what accessible? Like
mhm.
what made you go
Sure.
after DXM?
Sure, yeah. So, like I said, I was like around like 18 or 19. And it was when I first became introduced and interested in psychedelics in general. I had just started doing DMT, psilocybin, LSD, things like that. And just through that opened up an interesting portal for me where I experimented in a lot of different ways, doing a lot of different things. um, and I became aware of DXM, dextromethorphan, and Robitussin, and that whole culture, and just dissociatives in general. And I really liked them, man. I've always really liked dissociatives. I can see why it's not everyone's cup of tea, but from the very get go, I was like, I like this shit.
I
And
feel that. I feel that.
Yeah, dude.
DXM, I never got into it myself like that much. I mean, I've tried it, particularly in the triple C form. That's still DXM, right? Or is that another?
Yeah, there are some forms of it. Like I think Triple C might have been. You always the
They're the
safest
pills.
bet. You wanted to make sure that you bought Robitussin that only contained dextromethorphan, because some people would kill themselves because they think they're robo tripping, and they would be, but they're also like taking the ones that had acetaminophen in it or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Usually they'll have
Yeah,
Tylenol on it. That's true. Well, even
yeah,
with like oxys and shit, they'll have acetaminophen in it as well, like 325 milligrams per 5 milligram oxycodone. But I feel you, bro. Yeah, dissociatives and psychs are always down my alley as well. I've definitely used to be a lot crazier. It's more contained now for myself. I'm not
yeah,
doing acid like 5 times in 10 days or anything like that anymore. But I still like to use them in my life. I probably trip on shrooms slash acid maybe like 3 times, 4 times a year now. So I still incorporate it in my life because I do think that most people could benefit from, say, a shrooms trip every now and then. Um, I guess I've done acid way more, but I've really like psilocybin, particularly because it lasts shorter. And if I want to make it last longer, I'll just take more. It's kind of like
yeah,
the same dilemma with something like extended release and instant release. If you want to have extended release, just take 2 instant releases later on. Like anyway, um, but these days I do DMT more than I've done DMT more than any other psychedelic I've consumed combined, probably. And I've done a lot of psychedelics. So that means a lot of DMT usage, but I love it, dude. It's like the most pure like way to get to God. And then to you, it could last for a while, but, uh, in the real world, it's only like 15, 20 minutes. And then if you don't want to blast off, you just take a smaller dose, which are like 25, 40 milligrams. So you'll stay in reality, but like you'll see impossible shit happen. Like you'll see the literal vibe floating above people, or you'll see like you literally watch something morph into some completely different. Not, and it's not like the acid where you look at like a trippy thing and then it's kind of like trippy morphins. So like DMT, like you'll just see some shit just like completely restructure itself in another complete item. When people say like, oh, like, do you see a unicorn fly by? That shit doesn't happen on acid or shrooms unless I guess you do like a ridiculous dose. But on DMT, that shit like could literally happen. And
yeah,
I've learned like at some points when I smoke DMT, it doesn't even matter if your eyes are closed or open. It's just, it don't matter. It don't matter. You're just tripping that hard. It's some of my friends, like I'll be at a concert. Is my mic too loud or am I good?
Oh, you're good, bro.
Word,
Yeah, you're
word.
good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes I'll be at a concert and I'll just be hitting my DMT pen in the crowd, just like chilling, like standing. And my friends will be like, might say that my eyes are like in the back of my head, which kind of aligns with my thought that it doesn't really matter if your eyes are open or closed on DMT sometimes because you're just seeing shit. Most likely your eyes are in the back of your head.
Dude, I saw, and I need to chase this rabbit further. I saw an interesting post on Reddit of some guy saying he had smoked. I need to look this up. He had smoked DMT with this other blind dude, and this like blind dude saw for the first time or some shit. Um,
I feel like I
it's
remember that. I don't
Do you
know
remember
the
this
results. I
post?
don't remember the results.
It blew up in the DMT subreddit. It was a while back that I saw this. That's why it's hard for me to recall. But I saw some shit about blind people smoking DMT, and I think it was Reddit, and they saw things, which is like really fucking interesting. You know, they talk about the mind's eye, but yeah, dude, DMT also has a very, very special place in my heart. It's to me, it's like all the other things kind of feel like the rings of the mandala. And Terrence McKenna used to say like DMT is kind of like the center of the mandala. It's almost like they're all kind
Interesting.
of it's almost like they're all kind of pointing to that. And but when you do vaporize that DMT, dude, it feels like the center of the mandala. Like okay, yeah, we're just going straight there.
I fuck with
Um,
that theory for sure.
it's such, and what I love about it too, and what's so interesting to me about the vaporizing N,N-dimethyltryptamine phenomena, right, is that it doesn't have like it's I would say a global phenomenon for sure, but like let's be real, it's almost kind of like mostly American. Like a lot of it got kicked off by the people in around the 1960s and the kind of like those circles with Terrence McKenna and things like that, and it kind of propagated out through there. And in this sort of like quote unquote psychedelic renaissance that we're experiencing, it's mostly like us kind of experiencing that. There is some other countries around the world that are also kind of experiencing their own, but like the N,N-dimethyltryptamine thing is somewhat American. It's somewhat new. It doesn't have like a cultural imprint on it yet. Whereas like, something like ayahuasca, ibogaine, peyote, even psilocybin mushrooms, things, they have like some culture wrapped around it, and the indigenous teachings and longstanding like ways of interfacing and matrices that we build around this thing. But with N,N-dimethyltryptamine and vaporizing it in particular, we're still kind of like figuring that out.
I
And that's
feel
why there's
that.
yeah, and I love that aspect of it, dude. Like it's both because you're playing with fire. It's like this is both like it's such a crazy nexus point.
Dude, every time I'm about to smoke DMT, even though I've done it like hundreds of times, every time you still get that kind of like, oh shit, we better go down. We better go down. Like it don't matter how much experience you got with it. It's just like, oh, it better go down. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, DMT is great. I also think another reason why the psychedelic community is rather small is because there's no fucking money in it. And
Mm.
think that's why there's just not much money in the whole psychedelic scene because it's all illegal and it's YouTube hates it too, bro. My channel was demonetized for nearly 2 years. I had to clean it up, and now I'm like always like fuck, like I don't know
You mean like a lot of people within like the psychedelic like content creation scene, or just like
that and everything else as well. Like
yeah, it's a really when you're like as you say that, my mind started thinking about the different ways in which people make money within this industry, and I'm like sitting here thinking about it. Like as of right now, what's going on there? There is like massive investments into like the research of like let's try and find a psilocybin analog that doesn't make you trip that we can patent and shit in 2032 with all the research and get it approved by the FDA. And we're going to dump $500 million into this endeavor. That is like going on, but yeah, dude, it doesn't like to me like the whole thing doesn't feel optimized and natural yet because like there is this somewhat forceful merging of like these very archaic things that are like innate to us. It feels like a natural part of being a human to me, like having these mystical experiences and like transforming with them and learning from them. It feels so natural. It feels like yeah, like we're all, maybe not everybody, but damn near all of us are kind of like this is so intuitive and natural and this like part of the experience. It should be a birthright, and there's this merging of that thing with all this cultural significance and like cultures that have with our like Western sickness and like systems and things, and that and people are sitting over here dumping $500 million and trying to get this fucking psilocybin analog synthesized and made and improved, and it's like fucking I don't know, dude. I just
someone
can't.
dropped that much money into what analog was it? Like was it 4-ACO DMT or something?
And I say $500 million. It's like I don't know exact, but
That's an
there
absurd
is
amount to
these
drop on a psychedelic research.
there's these different pharmaceutical companies, dude. There's like billions of dollars right now going into this shit, like trying to like and like a lot
I
of
hope
it's not
so.
going to be. It's just they're doing that. They wouldn't dump that amount of money into it if they didn't have. There's whole teams around like the analytical side of is this going to be something in which we will recoup our investment, and
That
so
makes
like
sense.
there is a projection in that they may be able to recoup it. I honestly don't like I can't help but feel like if you did create some sort of psilocybin analog that didn't make you trip, I don't know, brother. I mean, yeah, like the amount of people I think who are going to sign up for all of that hassle in some sort of clinical setting with the insurance loops and fucking whatever oversight compared to just taking some mushrooms from their friend who grows them and is super passionate about it and like tells you, hey, I think the visionary part is a actually pretty crucial aspect of this entire thing. Like, I just can't help feel like there is a lot of energy going into the whole psychedelic thing within our sphere over here, but it's like not being optimally directed yet, and that's
Agreed.
okay. That's okay because like I think that's part of the process, right? Like we're gonna look back and be like that was an essential part of us figuring out how we direct our energy. But it's dude, like I don't know, like the shit's here. Like you say, like what you said earlier, like I think so many people can benefit. Like I agree. I think everyone who does these things probably like instantly kind of feels that way. Like, whoa, we should have all been told about this. More people should do this. So the shit's here. It's been here. Yet the one hurdle we're all trying to overcome and like dancing around is the fucking bureaucratic bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro.
And
It's unfortunate that it's gotten to that point, and it's the war on drugs is a lot worse in the 80s and whatnot. It seems like we're on a trajectory to obtain legality in most of these areas. I want to go. I want to just be able to go to CVS and buy a sheet of acid. Like that's what my beliefs are. It needs maybe a bit more controlled or regulated than that. But for the most part,
yeah,
we're all consenting adults. If we want to do something, fucking do it. And if not, that's how you get drug cartels and crime because people are gonna do what they want to do.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
it's hard to get. It's not readily available. Maybe if it was readily available, people. I mean, there's some pretty horrible drugs and substances out there that are legal right now. I mean, even alcohol is one of the most dangerous drugs ever. It's one of the only things that the withdrawal kills you. That and benzos, as most people know, that can fucking kill you, bro. And it's
I had
also
a
a literal poison. Alcohol is a literal poison.
yeah.
So
I had a friend in college, man, who I saw literally lose himself, and I don't think he's fully picked up the pieces back together again from Adderall. Like, he was
Adderall,
like
interesting.
Adderall, and it was because he got into this place of like at first, he got on Adderall for school and I think finals, things like that. And he'd binge a little bit for finals, but it was this one summer in which he started taking it a lot. And he was always talking to me about his anxiety, and he started taking it a lot. And he fucking started binging, dude, and like when like going like several day benders and shit like that. And he kind
It's
of like
meth at
it,
that point.
yeah, and he entered into this kind of like psychotic state, which I think like he's doing better, but it's like, goddamn, dude, like he really fragmented out in a scary way from this thing, which is put on like if we give to 5-year-olds sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's and not saying that I think Adderall is bad. I don't believe that either. I just this weird, like you described, like we allow some things, it's like we allow some very potent psychoactive potentially bad things selectively as long as they're prescribed by the fucking white lab coat you know but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
funny how Adderall is like looked at as a hard drug until it's prescribed by a doctor, then it's a medication. It goes from
yeah,
a hard drug to a medication.
dude, I live in rural Kentucky, and like methamphetamine's like a big issue around here and stuff. Like if you had to talk about like hard street drugs, like I'm sure it's probably one of the biggest. Whenever I was incarcerated, it was very clear to me that like dude, like 60, probably 70% of the people in there were in there on some meth shit. It was crazy. Like meth's a big deal. I say a big deal, like big problem.
The
Maybe
big
arresting
three,
people.
the big three is heroin, crack, and meth. Those are the big three.
Yeah, yeah. And so meth's really big here. And so like if I were to like get pulled over, and I would never would because I don't do meth, don't have meth, I swear to God. But like, if I were to get pulled over right now with methamphetamine on me, it would be a big fucking deal, brother. Like I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me if a gun got pointed to my goddamn face. I'd be looking at serious like, based on my previous charges, serious time and like all this shit. But if I were to get pulled over with my goddamn Adderall prescription, I'd be told like, oh, good job taking your medicine, you know. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
what's the difference? The difference was I went through your middleman white lab coat, you know.
Basically, that's exactly when you break it down. That's what it is. You just went through a middleman who happens to be in a white lab coat in a fucking pharmacy. Went to pharmacy school, which is fine, fine, whatever. I guess they have to prove. Apparently, as a consenting adults, we're still dumb enough to make that decision, even though everything's readily available on the internet for free. Like you can access all that information whenever the hell you want. So
Yeah,
it's not like back in the day where you had to go to the fucking library and pick out all these books and choose. It's just see how to, it's just a lot easier to get information these days. And so the fact that we still need to go through a lab coat to get a lot of this stuff, or even it's just illegal, you can't get it all. It's unfortunate. But it looks
yeah,
like
it's,
with all these analogs, at least we're going somewhere with the legal side of it. So at least they're becoming readily accessible, just like the information has become readily accessible. So it should be interesting to see how this plays out in the long term. I think the war on drugs will be never ending. It seems like even left and right, Democrat, Republican, they both are against drugs for whatever reason. I think because probably it keeps the lower class in jail. It's or just like it further allows the lower class to exist so their higher class can still rule over them. That's like pretty deep, but on a I don't know, logistical level, it seems like that's how it goes down.
yeah, dude. I agree with you. I had this insight at a music festival when I was on a very large dose of LSD, and like thinking about like all of this, and I had this epiphany that the music festival I was at, and like American music festivals in general, were this very intelligent, unspoken hive mind like network thing that we have all, like, once again, kind of unconsciously created together as like a safe place for people to do hallucinogenic drugs. And like, because I, like when I meet people at festivals and things like that, like, don't get me wrong, like they're there for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of different things going on, right? There's music, there's sometimes like ice baths and different therapy things and massages and breath work and this dance, and there's all the things, right? But like to me, that, and they're all important parts of the matrix. But like when I really get to know people who are there, it's like I can, in most people I meet, it's like, oh, I can tell like you're essentially looking for a safe place to like do hallucinogenic drugs. Most people who go to music festivals, it seems like. And so like I was like, even through prohibition, like we have still created our own really weird sort of unspoken techno shamanic fucking ritualistic place that people do this. I'm not saying that it's optimal. I definitely don't think that, but it's this our really interesting Americanized, suppressed version of it that is, I feel like, bubbled through the cracks. You know what I'm saying? Because like what I was saying about like about these things being so innate and natural to us, like these mystical moments and interfacing with them and developing with them and learning from them, like I think that really is so innate to us that no matter how much you suppress that at like the collective and societal level, that's going to bubble through at some point. And I think that like what happened with the whole 1960s thing was that you have that was like ever present and had been ever present from the very fucking get go. You can never fully suppress that. And then when you rocket fuel it with something like LSD, which can be fucking distributed at such a crazy massive level and it's so potent, like it was just like rocket fuel for that underlying thing. And I think like music festivals are also kind of like this expression of this underlying thing of us, you know what I'm saying, this thing
Agreed.
that we all, yeah, dude. And like I know I've go through your Instagram and seen your content and stuff, like you really like music festivals.
I
And
do
like,
really like music.
what
I
is it
like
that you
music
like
a lot.
music festivals? What do you like about music festivals, dude?
Everything about it, man. It's an escape. It's just a way. It's a way to be your most free self. If you look at it that way, you can be your most free self at all times of every day. But that's like a way that you can express it and do things that you normally can't do. It's almost like an adult playground where you can just.
Yeah.
It's like a wonderland, an adult wonderland or whatever. It's cool. I love music festivals. I think somewhere down in my influencer career, I'm gonna start making music. I would love to perform music. That would be cool. But right now, I just like enjoying music, and I love all sorts of music. I mean, that goes really deep. I used to, yeah. I just have a lot of music taste. It's a very broad question. What do I like about music festivals? Everything, you know.
Dude, it's so ecstatic. You know what you said about it, like adult playground. I love that because the first music festival I went to, I was on a very large dose of LSD, and I kept telling my buddy, I was like, dude, we're at a fucking playground right now. Like this is meant for this. Like
Yeah,
it was so
dude.
clear to me.
Some there. I mean, there's some crazy stories I have about music festivals. Like just especially like drug experiences. A lot of stuff that I've some stuff that stuck with me to this day like happened at music festivals. Like I mean, it depends where you go, but like some you'll just like go to and you'll just see people just like take off their clothes. Like just some chick will just like strip down on top of a rock and just like stand there dancing. She's probably tripping balls, like that type shit. Or some crazy shit happens. Like I once smoked half a gram of DMT at once at a music festival. I've never heard of anyone ever in real life or the internet who've smoked a half a gram of DMT once before. And I remember loading it in. I had how I do DMT these days is I have a very um streamlined method now. I used to put it in a dab rig, but you waste a lot because the smoke from the dab rig is going to go up when you dab it. And so yeah, like uh instead of a dab, I use a dab pen now, and so it's made for wax, right? You have medical oils, and you're supposed to put the wax on the medical oils, and then you dab it. It's not for cards, but instead you put the DMT crystal right onto the coils of that dab cart, and you got a little handheld DMT dispenser right here that you can just hit whenever the fuck you want. It works. It's more consistent than a cart. You don't have to use MCT oil or some liquid PG solution. It's just straight crystal onto coil light.
Hmm.
So now that I got that figured out, like for the last few years, that's what really boosted my DMT usage, is like the ability to do it like whenever you don't need to like sit down and like do a fucking dab and like all that shit. But yeah, man, I went to a festival and I loaded up a half a gram into the DMT cart or DMT pen, thinking that it would last like several hits, like 20, 30 hits. So I hit it, and I guess it just all burned up right away. And so, yeah, I took like 2 or 3 hits, and I completely blacked out. I don't remember anything. Usually you black out a DMT trip if it's like really high dose. But in this case, like, I apparently, according to some chick that saved me, essentially, I laid back against a tree, hit it, and then I guess she said I got up, ran like 20 yards, tripped over someone's camping stuff, and then I guess she like grabbed me or whatever. Because I remember waking up like 20 yards in the other direction. It's like looking at her. I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, she has my DMT pen in her hand. She's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm just like going to, and I'm like, yeah, like I guess I don't remember anything from the trip at all, but 500 milligrams of DMT at once to the face. I've never heard of
brother.
anyone ever smoking that amount of DMT ever. So I don't know
No,
if that's a world
dude.
record from. So I'm sure people got it intravenously in a like lab higher than that, but that was insane. It was accidental. But shit like that can happen at music festivals. I guess that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, what do I like about music festivals? Very broad question, but fun
Yeah.
stuff happens there for sure. And it's just like a way for it's one of the few ways in life these days, maybe sports would be the other thing, the sports games, that brings people together. Like in my opinion, sports and music make the world go round. If you go to a
Yeah.
bar, what's on? Music and sports. If you go anywhere, it's just music. Or like, and so that brings people together. So my friends who live all up and down the Upper East Coast that I don't really see anymore because we're all adults, we all have our own lives now. We all moved away throughout life. Well, music festivals are one of the few things in life that brings everybody together and socialize again. And I see some of my best friends yearly on or however many times during the year, pretty much only exclusively at music festivals. Like a lot of my friends, I only really see at music festivals because it's a way to bring people together.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. There's yeah, it feels like every time I go to a music festival, there's this unspoken like everybody's showing up and bringing their A game. Like we're here to have a good time, and it's this kind of like unspoken. You know what I'm saying? I kind of
It's because they bring their A game in a sense that there's been so much anticipation built up to that moment. Because I'm sure when they buy their festival ticket, they mark it on the calendar, and that's what they think about. Like I always like to have even just like a concert or a show or like a sports game to look forward to every few days, every however long. So you're always thinking when you're doing something you don't like at least I got that, at least I got that. You know what I mean? And that music festival would be one of those things. But because of that, there's a lot of anticipation that builds up to a music festival the months leading up to it after you buy your ticket. So when it actually happens, people, like you said, bring their A game because they want to have a fun time. Their A party game is what it is.
what would you say is your favorite drug to take at a music festival?
At a music festival, interesting. So my favorite drug ever, if I had to choose, people ask me if I had to choose one drug for the rest of my life, what would it be? Pregabalin is what I would do. So if I had a barely baseline level, pregabalin slash Lyrica, that would be the drug that I would choose because it's so versatile. It's just you can use it in almost any situation for so many different things, productivity, recreation, and that's just at the very like you can just do it, entertainment, anything, dude. You can do it for anything. Now, my favorite drug at a music festival, that's another interesting question because there's so many different drugs that do different things that you may not want to take that drug every day. Probably MDMA. If I had to choose one drug for a festival, probably just MDMA.
Yeah. Do you like MDA?
I do like MDA. Sassafras, I do enjoy myself some MDA. I take MDMA more often than I do but I take SAS a few times a year. Usually I like to combine it with the MDMA. So if there's a day of a music festival or something, because SAS, if I don't take MDA going to concerts because that's late at night and I don't want to be up all night because SAS lasts longer than Molly. But if I'm going to a music festival and it's an all day thing, I like to take 100 milligrams of MDA and 100 milligrams of MDMA, and I feel like that little combo is beautiful. It's a beautiful combo.
That does sound like a nice combo. I really enjoy MDA. What do you think of the? I mean, I enjoy both of them. I think I slightly, and they're of course like own use cases different because of the duration, but I think I slightly prefer MDA these days. Weirdly enough,
Interesting.
but what do you think of the? And this is something I've gone back and forth on a lot. But like, what do you think of the sort of like proposed neurotoxicity of things like MDMA and MDA, right? Because there's that 3 month rule. Like, I don't know who started that, where that came from exactly, but there's always been this sort of like rule that people say that you should wait 3 months in between, these MDMA experiences because of your serotonin, and you can do permanent brain damage and like all these different things. And, like in
That's a
my
valid
experience,
question. It's a valid question. Um,
yeah.
so basically, uh, 9 months or sorry, 90 days, right? Let's get back to the tolerance, I guess. So MDMA, it's safe to wait 2 to 4 weeks to until your next roll. If you really need to, you can wait a week, but make sure you're taking supplements in between that time so you can fully recover. MDMA and MDA are not things you want to be doing every day. It's not like Adderall where you can take it every day and it's not going to have permanent brain damage, because MDA and MDMA affect your serotonin way more than Adderall or stimulants do, because stimulants are mostly dopamine, but MDMA and MDA are also stimulants that do release dopamine, but they also release a lot of serotonin, and that serotonin is what you need to recover with. So 2 to 4 weeks is my recommended time. Now, I'm just
Mhm.
some guy at the end of the day,
Yeah.
so whatever, take that with a grain of salt if you may, but that's my opinion, is 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Now you can wait a
D-
week. Now the 90-day things, that's valid, because just like with any drug, that could completely get the drug out of your system. Same with weed, right? So you can wait 30 days with weed. That'll probably reset 95% of your tolerance. But if you want to go a full 100% of your tolerance, yeah, 90 days, just go 90 days. So it really just depends for that. Now, when it comes to brain damage, if you use it responsibly, allegedly, I don't want to be sued or anything. If you use it responsibly, you can use MDMA without any permanent brain damage.
yeah. See, like, because I've had experiences on MDMA. People talk about like the suicide Mondays or whatever. I've had experiences with MDMA where it's like, I took a lot and I stayed up late partying and drinking and smoking weed and like slept for 2 hours. And like, of course, like the next day I fucking felt awful. And I've also had MDMA experiences where like I took it at noon and took a very controlled dose and like redosed a little bit and like just cuddled on the couch with my girlfriend and then like ate a good dinner and went to sleep that night and like had like the opposite of a hangover, like an afterglow, actually, that persisted for several days. And like, I really, whenever that I had that experience, it got me thinking more about this particular topic because I've never been sold on the full 90. I've never pushed it hard myself. But I've done MDMA maybe like 8 times, and I've done SAS a few times now. So like,
Word.
in that, yeah, but I've always enjoyed them. But it's just one of those things like. But I've never been sold on this sentiment of like, even with that, even my very like selective use of it myself, I've never been sold on a 90-day thing. And I get this feeling too, like
It's valid. It's valid. You can't go
I think,
wrong with waiting 90 days.
yeah, and I think that it's like you said, I think people can actually get themselves into, and I've seen this. I think people can get themselves into a very dark place with the actual abuse of it. But I don't
Yes.
think it's 90 days across the board every time. And I do think, kind of like you said, like, I think people probably could do it like once every week or two for a short period of time and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
supplementing like good amino acids and shit like that in
Bro,
between.
I'll
And
give you the whole fucking stack, dude. If you do
give me
it
the stack, give
responsibly,
them the stack right now.
if you do it responsibly, I mean, you could do it a week later. I'll give you the stack, sure. So
Yeah.
EGCG, take that with your 5-HTP. The EGCG will help the 5-HTP cross the blood-brain barrier. Do not take 5-HTP 24 hours before or after the roll because your serotonin is still all jacked up. That's just going to give you one step closer to serotonin syndrome. So don't do that. If you want to have a stronger roll, take 100 to 200 milligrams of 5-HTP 3 days leading up to the roll, and don't wait 24 hours before you take the Molly to just go on a roll. Do not take 5-HTP 24 hours before or after the roll, as that can lead to serotonin syndrome. Now, after the roll, take 200 to 300 milligrams of 5-HTP for 1 to 5 days after, and that will replenish your serotonin and you won't have depressive episodes and whatnot. Now, during the roll, stay hydrated. If you drink beer, not water, that's going to make you feel like shit the next day. That's like the Sunday, what you were talking about, like if you're on Sunday,
Yeah.
whatever it was. So drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, especially if you're partying, because you're going to be sweating balls. Fucking drink water. Even if you're going to drink beer, you can, not recommended, you can, but drink a fuck ton of water if you do drink beer on your roll.
Yeah.
Other ways to kind of like prevent jaw cleansing, you can chew gum. Just yeah, and then the stacks. So you have 5-HTP, EGCG, magnesium glycinate. That'll replenish your dopamine. It's also an electrolyte. So magnesium glycinate. Don't go to Walmart and get magnesium oxide. That's bullshit. It's the same form of magnesium, milk of magnesium. It's not going to do shit unless you take a bunch, like 15 grams. Those pills are like 100 grams. So ignore that. They're basically useless. You want to use magnesium glycinate or cetronate. It starts with a C. You could use that too. Glycinate is probably my favorite because it's the most cost effective and it's also one of the most bioavailable. If you want
Magnesium citrate, is it
citrate,
Yeah,
yes.
citrate.
And then
Yeah.
threonate is another one that's really good.
Magnesium threonate.
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
and yeah, the other one are good, but glycinate is the one my choice. But any of those are good. And so take 200 milligrams roughly every day. You should just take that every day, to be honest. But if you're just just giving you stack, yeah, just take that 1 to 5 days after. Vitamin C, definitely take that before and after the
Vitamin
roll.
C. Yeah.
If you go to Walmart, you can get those vitamin C pills. They're in a good form, but they're like 1,000 milligrams. You can only absorb like 200 milligrams at once. So at least break those pills in half so you're saving yourself because you don't need the whole pill. Now it's water soluble, so you can take it a bunch of times during the day, and anything you don't need, you'll piss out, just like B vitamins. Speaking of B vitamins, you should be taking this every day, but it's really good to add to a roll. B complex pill, an enzymatically active version of a B complex pill, really good. Gets you an enzymatically active version of each and all 8 B vitamins, which you do need to live. And then B12, specifically a methylated version. So methylcobalamin,
I
B12.
take it every day, brother. I love
Word up.
this. You,
Word
you're,
up.
yeah, dude.
Hell
You're
yeah.
putting on some good game, man. There's so much bullshit in like the supplement game, and especially when it comes to the applicability of this. So I appreciate you because I can tell you've experimented, you've researched.
Dog, I took
Yeah.
like fucking 8 supplements this morning. I mean, I need, yeah, like,
I love that about you, dude. I'm a big supplement head. My fucking cabinet over there.
you want to
Oh
give
my
me the
god.
whole rundown of like the 10 substances I took today? So it's what, like 2:00 in the morning. I took, here's some games. So this is the ultimate natural stimulating supplement stack. If you want to quit caffeine, if you want to quit Adderall, if you want to quit Vyvanse, if you want to quit Ritalin, if you want to quit tobacco, use this stack because you can't get addicted to it and it's natural. And here, I'll give you the rundown. So today I took 3 grams of taurine. You may know that as in energy drinks. That's a natural amino acid. It's very energizing. So I took 3 grams of that. I took 600 milligrams of alpha GPC. That increases acetylcholine in your brain, and it increases focus. And you can take it as this stack, by the way, is also a pre-workout stack. It lead to better pumps. It's like a natural stimulant. So 3 grams of taurine, 600 milligrams of alpha GPC. I believe it was like 6.5 grams of L-citrulline, which is another amino acid. It's a vasodilating amino acid, so it'll make your veins pop out.
Yeah. The thing is that the one that's in really high quantities in watermelon. There's a
Yes.
certain yeah, fuck
Yes.
yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
you take that, and it gets your blood pumping like you're ready to go. Especially if you take it, you could take this stack with stimulants as well because stimulants vasoconstrict your veins, but the citrulline will counteract that and vasodilate your veins. So I took that. I took half a milligram of atizolam. I took 300 milligrams of pregabalin. I'm prescribed that for my back. Um, and then I drank some caffeine.
what is pregabalin? I know I've heard of that. I think I've researched it at some point, but I'm blanking on it right now. What is pregabalin?
Pregabalin is a GABAergic substance that is used to treat neurotic pain, specifically in patients like I've had 3 back surgeries, so I have really
Gotcha.
bad nerve pain, and so
Okay.
it's prescribed to treat nerve pain. It's I believe maybe it can be prescribed for depression as well, but that may be gabapentin. I may be getting that confused. Gabapentin is prescribed actually for
Yeah.
anxiety. They give that to like dogs and shit.
I've taken gabapentin.
Yeah,
I've never
it's
taken pregabalin
yes. So
though.
gabapentin is the most similar drug to pregabalin. You can use them
Okay.
interchangeably. They're very similar.
I really enjoyed gabapentin.
Yeah, so the reason why pregabalin, in my opinion, is better is because I was on gabapentin for years leading up to when I switched to pregabalin. And a very high dose of gabapentin too. It was 1,800 milligrams. That's 600 milligrams 3 times a day. That's a lot of fucking gabapentin. People are prescribed 100 milligrams a day. I was prescribed 18x that. Anyway,
Yeah, I think I took like two or 300. I didn't think I took that much. Yeah.
where a
That's good.
recreational dose I used to go with, I would take 600 milligrams first and then pop another 300 about 30 minutes later and then another 300 milligrams another 30 minutes later, because you have to stagger the doses. Because going back into why pregabalin and gabapentin are different is gabapentin has a low bioavailability. In fact, the bioavailability is only 27 to 60%. Pregabalin's bioavailability is 90%. And also, gabapentin is fat soluble. So you have to take it with a fatty meal. So it depends on what you eat with
Oh,
it. With pregabalin, it's like a drug. You just fucking take it. The meal doesn't affect how it's absorbed. So gabapentin, you have to eat 20 to 50 grams of fat to get the maximum bioavailability. Otherwise, it's going to give you 50% of its bioavailability. So it goes from 60 to 30%. So the bioavailability is not as good, which is why that's a downside of gabapentin. Also, you have to stagger the doses. So pregabalin, you just take your pills and you're good. You just last like an hour. From hour 1 to 8, you just last. But with gabapentin, it only lasts around 5 hours, and you have to stagger the dose because you can only absorb so much gabapentin at once. So that's why when I took gabapentin, I would take 600 milligrams at first, then you stagger the dose. So you wait 30 minutes, take another 300 milligram pill so that can absorb, and then take another 30 to 60 minutes, take another pill. So you have to stagger the doses, and that's fucking annoying. Like, say you're about to drive
yeah, dude.
somewhere, you got to like pop these pills. Like, oh, it's time to take my 30 fucking GABA pill. Woo! So it's annoying as fuck. With pregabalin, you just pop, you're good, fucking zigging for however long. And then the other downside, at least I look at this downside, I get massive munchies on gabapentin as opposed to pregabalin, to the point where I get quote unquote the biggest munchies on gabapentin more than any other drug, more than benzos, more than ganj, more than any other fucking drug. So it leads to
Interesting.
a point where when I'm on so much gabapentin, it's just like my stomach's like an endless pit, and I just fucking eat, and then the next day I wake up feeling like shit because I'm not really a bulker. I work out and whatnot every week, multiple times a week, and I play in a soccer team. So like I try to be active, but I'm not like a bulker. So when I overeat, it just makes me feel like shit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm the same way, man. And then
but
yeah,
yeah, and so I guess finish up with gabapentin. Pregabalin and gabapentin are very similar in effects. They pretty much feel the exact same, but they have differences that make pregabalin better because it's a lot more advantageous over gabapentin in many ways, such as the 3 I described.
nice. Nice. Yeah. You want to hear my stack?
Word
My
up,
morning
word up.
stack? So I'm trying to like do it chronologically. Um so like whenever I wake up, I usually like stretch, I'll drink a bunch of water. My first water of the day has just lemon in it. Do like lemon, just like squeeze like half a lemon and a bunch of fucking water. I'll drink that like almost as soon as I wake up. I try to get a little bit of sunlight. I know I'm sounding like such a douchebag right now, running through all the biohacky stuff, but
Nah, bro, I'm about
uh,
that shit, dude.
Yeah, I'll get like a little bit of sunlight. I'll start like stretching my body and stuff like that. Something I never hear people talk about in their like morning routines, especially like the biohacking morning routines, is like their bowel movements. But like I pretty much like evacuate usually somewhere within the first like 30 minutes to an hour of like waking up. And
Do
so
you
like
drink
that's a big
coffee?
part. No, I don't drink
Oh,
coffee anymore.
my morning
Actually, it's
shits would come right after either caffeine or Adderall
yeah.
consumption because I take
It's
one of those
interesting.
two every day.
It's interesting you say that because I drank coffee my entire life. I was a big coffee guy up until a few months ago. I had this. I was on a really large dose of LSD, and I was drinking some cacao that somebody had made me, and I was like, like I've always loved cacao. I love how it makes me feel. I love the taste of it. And I was thinking about coffee, and I was like, I've always had this base level of anxiety that just feels like it never goes away. Like I'm gonna try quitting coffee. Like even when I was incarcerated, I drank coffee in there every day. And so
Bro,
I just switched to cacao right after it was the next day after that acid trip. I switched to cacao, and I've literally drank nothing but cacao ever since. And like immediately, my anxiety, like dude, like dropped like fucking like 70%, like within a week, and just yeah.
what's cacao? Is that the cacao plant and you're drinking it?
So cacao is like whenever you have chocolate, a lot of times made with cocoa is just processed cacao. So cocoa is essentially like the white bread version of like wheat, if that makes sense. Like cacao is the what is the full spectrum form of that, where it hasn't been stripped of its like proteins and fibers and different things like that. And so cacao is chocolate. It's basically powderized chocolate. It tastes very earthy. It tastes very chocolatey. And so what I'll do is I'll heat up some water, chunk in cacao, throw in some stevia to make it sweet. And it's essentially like really, really delicious, earthy, nutty, hot chocolate. And
Interesting.
it's really rich in magnesium, polyphenols. It has, so caffeine caffeine breaks down. It's like, and you might know this off the top of your head, but caffeine breaks down to like three other metabolites. It's like paraxanthine, theobromine, and what is the other one?
Maybe adenosine, but I think it goes into your adenosine
Xanthan.
receptors.
Yeah, it plays on adenosine, but I think theobromine is one of them. But so it's this caffeine-like molecule. Cacao has a shit ton of theobromine, and theobromine is can be somewhat stimulating, but it's like this very relaxing stimulation, and it's also really good for your muscles. Like a muscle relaxer. It's known to, part of the reason why caffeine like coffee helps people like go shit, like why it helps with their bowel movements, is because it contains some theobromine. And what theobromine does is it helps relax the muscles like in your gut and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And so yeah, cacao is great, dude. It tastes fucking great.
I remember smoking it in high school because we thought it could do
Smoked
something.
cacao. Yeah,
Yeah,
people. There's a
powder,
phenomenon
the
of like.
powder.
Have you heard of like cacao ceremonies?
No, I haven't.
I'm surprised you haven't run into this at any of your music festivals or anything like that. This is part of. This is like one of the. This is one of these like Western psychedelic Renaissance phenomenon. I say that that might sound disrespectful because this does come from a more indigenous place. Like there's people who have been doing this for a very long time, but it's something that we as Westerners have been trying to merge with our society and been bringing here. And if a lot of people are doing this, they're having cacao ceremonies where people make a big pot of cacao tea, like I was just describing, and they all drink it together. And then there's usually some sort of other like modalities involved in that, like the breath work and the inner child with trauma release, and however people structure it. But yeah, there's a whole like phenomenon around cacao, and rightfully so. It's awesome, but yeah, so you haven't tried cacao?
Besides smoking cacao powder, I think it was just like we had found it in a cabinet or something. That's about it. I did it a few times. I don't remember. I think we were just out of weed or some shit. Just stupid kid shit.
So maybe we could like do a recording together where we have a cacao a
Fuck it,
cacao
dude.
ceremony, dude. We'll
That'd be
drink it.
funny.
You'll order some cacao off Amazon. It's not expensive. Uh,
It's not the Hershey powder, right? I have that in my cabinet.
it's not the same thing because that's processed. That's cocoa.
Okay,
You
okay.
want to get raw. It'll say if you just like go on Amazon, type in like raw organic cacao powder. That's what you want, and you'll see on the back it has like it retains its protein and fiber and stuff like that.
I'm open to that idea for sure.
It's a really potent superfood, dude. And I think it tastes better than I love the taste of coffee, but I think it tastes better than coffee, and it makes me feel a lot better than coffee. And I'm not saying it's going to be that way for everybody, but we should have a cacao ceremony together on camera. We can drink some cacao together and see how you like it.
So it's what do I search? Like cacao powder?
So yeah, it's CACAO, cacao, and then powder. Yeah,
Okay. Organic powder. I mean, yeah, I'm
yeah.
open to that. If I, I mean, why not?
I think it's the shit, man.
If
I
you
think
send me
you'd
the link
like
to
it.
whatever you used to, I can look at that. But
Yeah,
I'm open to it.
I'll send you the brand that I like.
Word. But yeah,
But
when I was quitting coffee or caffeine, I would just go to decaf, and I feel like that helped as well.
yeah, I did that for a little bit as well too. And then I realized I got on this. I don't know why I didn't consider this. It was when I was a lot younger, but I had made this switch to decaf coffee, and I was like drinking it throughout the afternoon and shit because I was like, it's decaf, you know what I'm saying? But then I come to realize and like learn and realize that oh, it's not fully decaffeinated. It's just like a tenth or a fifth the caffeine content
Right,
as
right.
regular coffee. Yeah, and so
It's very little, so if you did drink a lot of it, you probably get minor stimulation. But
yeah,
that is a thing.
yeah, man.
But I used to be addicted to coffee because it was so normalized. Like when I was in college, like I woke up and drank coffee just to feel normal, and then I would wonder
Yeah,
why I was anxious, like physically anxious, like 6 hours down the road. It's like, oh yeah, I drank a shit ton of coffee in the morning that didn't even really do anything to me because I was so reliant on it, and then just made me anxious afterwards. So anyway, I thought it was so normalized. So like, oh, people just wake up, drink coffee every single day. Like I didn't. It was normalized because caffeine is a drug. So people are addicted to caffeine like no other. Starbucks is the biggest drug empire in the world by that nature. Regardless, I did take a break from coffee and I quit. And goddamn, that first week it was crazy, man. You just have no dopamine because your body's like, we need the fucking coffee. Like, where is it? And so eventually I quit it. And now I stick to a regimen where I take a stimulant every day because I enjoy stimulants. So I probably do have a slight, maybe depends on it if I just stop cold turkey, but I incorporate either caffeine or Adderall in my day every day. Usually caffeine, maybe like basically caffeine 3, 4 times a week and Adderall 3, 4 times a week. I'll maybe oscillate between the two, but I just like having a stimulant in my morning. And then
yeah.
I use other supplements like agmatine to keep my tolerance down. I take agmatine pretty much every day. Um, I take a lot of other stuff every day. I've been indulging in ketamine every day, probably like the last 4 months, maybe. So yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah. My logic behind that is, so I smoke weed, I smoke ganja every day. So that's like another thing that's normalized as well as stimulants. But anyway, I smoke ganj up until 9 o'clock. I try and give myself 2 to 3 hours before going to bed because if I utilize cannabis before going to bed, like if I take a bowl and then fall asleep, I'm gonna have shit sleep, harder time falling asleep. I'm gonna wake up feeling like shit, wake up feeling groggy, wake up feeling unmotivated because I smoked weed right before I went to bed, and then I woke up and like I'm like, oh fuck, like it's like really hard to motivate myself at that. So I try and give myself 2 to 3 hours between going to bed and smoking weed for like the last time I hit the bowl. And because I can't smoke weed in that 3 hour time frame to go to bed, I utilize ketamine instead because ketamine doesn't affect your sleep. It makes you have better sleep, if anything. And you can take it, you can use ketamine and then go right to bed afterward. So I usually stop smoking weed around 9 p.m. so I can go to bed at midnight. And so from 9 p.m. to 12, I'll dabble into some ketamine. Now, I don't use the race mic, I use the S isomer, but like I'll do like 40 milligrams or something, you know, like before. And then maybe like bump like 25 milligrams and play Xbox or some shit, like watch a movie or whatever. It's, it, yeah, I'm not addicted to it, but I use caffeine and weed more than I use ketamine.
Yeah,
But if you use
yeah.
it correctly, it can just be a tool.
Do you worry about the because there's a lot of scare stories, and some of them are valid, a lot of them are valid. It depends on a lot of different factors, and this is where it like becomes really complicated because everyone's so different. But like, do you worry about like the bladder issues involved with that and some of the bladder stuff with ketamine? And I know, I assume like with everything else, kind of like we were talking about with MDMA, it's like the next day, if you take some fucking if you get some good sleep, take some amino acids, you fucking eat some healthy food and some vitamin C, like you're gonna be, you're gonna support your body's natural ability to kind of harmonize, right? But I
Do you
like the
smoke weed
ketamine,
every day?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well that's actually worse than if you did ketamine every day. So now you asked me at the bladder problems. I also smoke weed every day. I'm just saying like ketamine is less dangerous than weed if you utilize it correctly.
Well, I feel like that's that statement right there. Like it can't be the truth because it's only one perspective you're speaking of, and there's so many different, like,
True,
you know what I'm saying?
true. And
Yeah,
also,
and like
I am comparing like using a lot of weed to a little ketamine. Maybe if you used a little bit of weed, it would be
yeah,
safer than K. But I guess
and also
if you
like I've known people, dude. Like I like there's this couple of like old heads. Well, there's a couple of like in the music festival scene I know, and there's one here locally. There's a few old heads I know, and don't get me wrong, they have their own issues, and I'm not saying that there's not issues with it, but they've been ganja heads their entire lives. Anybody who I've met who's done ketamine every day either stops or I've had a couple of friends die, you know?
never heard of
And
anyone
like,
dying from ketamine in my experience. Also, the bladder
yeah,
problems. Just to answer that real quick, the
one
bladder
died in
problems.
a one died in a particular circumstance where it's like, okay, there might have been, and there probably was other factors involved, but
A lot of drugs, maybe.
one of them died from bladder failure.
Okay, well, he probably was doing a lot, man. If you do ketamine in
He
small
was,
amounts, if you do ketamine less than 100 milligrams a day, dude, it's very hard to.
yeah,
It's you're not going to really get bladder problems unless you abuse it. If you abuse it, you will be
right.
prone to getting bladder problems. But
Well, it's like,
I only do 40 milligrams, maybe a bump at 25, maybe another bump. That's less than 100 milligrams on the day, and that's really not that much. I smoke a, a lot more weed than that every day.
yeah. So what? Why did you say that weed was weed was worse?
I guess I was comparing if you smoke a lot of weed to a little ketamine, the weed's going to be worse.
I
More side
think,
effects. Like when
yeah,
I take it before bed, it's going to make me feel like shit when I wake up, like all the negative side effects. K does not have any negative side effects on me.
yeah. See, the like K every day thing, man. I'm very much on the fence about that. I think that given the right parameters, kind of like you're describing, very low doses, take care of your body. Otherwise, I think that it could be done, but I'm not like I like kind of like I said from my own personal experiences with it and all of my other buddies I've seen with it, I haven't met, and that's why I'm genuinely curious. I haven't met anyone who does it every day and has stuck with that for a long period of time. It's usually been like I do it every day, but it's like this has been going on for 7 months now, and my life is fucking like I need help. Like that's the place
Let
I,
me explain it to you. So first of all, I'm not
yeah,
recommending it. It's more just a
yeah,
science
yeah,
experiment I'm running on myself. Like, let's see, how is it going to affect me, right? So like
yeah,
I'm the test, right? And so I guess I'm just explaining how I feel, which are anyway. But yeah,
yeah,
if you smoke weed every day, all day, you're probably going to be a lazy piece of shit that don't get shit done. So if you do ketamine all day, every day, you're probably going to be lazy shit that doesn't. If you do Xanax every day, if you do whatever every day, like you're probably just going to be a fucking bum. But if you utilize it correctly, such as that one guy, the one professor that we spoke about who does heroin, if you use it responsibly, you know what you're doing, it's fine. Just like with weed, if you wake and bake every single day, I'm talking like a lot of weed too, like just every single day, you're probably just you're going to be a totally different person. But for me personally, I smoke weed pretty much after like 7 p.m. Once all my work is done for the day, a little of this is fine. But I blow down after maybe like 7 p.m. until when all my work's done, put on a football game, hockey game, whatever. And then 9 p.m. goes around, I stop smoking weed so it doesn't fuck up my sleep. And instead, I switch to ketamine, very low doses of ketamine. It's like the same if like you took a bowl of weed, you smoked a bowl of weed. I just railed a line of 40 milligrams of K, measured out with a milligram scale, you know?
yeah. I think like the weed thing, you know, I've met like I have buddies, like high school buddies, who've like they've definitely fallen into like they smoke weed all day every day and they're lazy. But then like also some of like the most like high functioning successful people that I currently know like also do that too. And so there's this weird like, polarity with that. And I'm truly convinced. I had this guy on the podcast. His name was Ryan Sprague, and he has this whole platform called the Conscious Cannabis Collective. And I'm truly convinced that you're kind of like psychedelics, like people obsessively talk about with psychedelics, like you're going to get out of it what you put into it and what your intention is with it. And it's not even just like if you light sage in the air before the experience, like what's going to come out and come through is like the entirety of who you are as a human being, you know. Not, and I'm not saying that I think if like weed makes you feel tired or whatever, that means you are lazy. I think that like if I were to take, and they showed this, there's a really, really interesting studies where they took some college age students and they blinded them for this experiment. Um, and they gave them stimulants and told them that it was a benzo, like a sedative, and asked them how they liked it, and they fucking loved it, brother. They built this whole matrix around it where they convinced them that they were about to take a sedative, and when given like some crazy stimulant, they all had great sleep. They fucking felt so relaxed, like all the things, dude.
It's
And
interesting.
they did the opposite too with the fucking sedative, where they gave them this, you know, stimulant and told them they gave them this sedative and told them they were getting a stimulant, and they're all fucking fired up and productive. And I'm really super convinced that the preconceptions that you have about like, and you see this come through in people's relationships with the drugs that they use and they take. If it's this like shameful, guilty thing, like it's usually like, and like weeds like that, when people have this weird like shame and like, oh, like, and like I'm not addicted, and like, it fucking comes through in their experiences, brother. But when I see motherfuckers own it and like, this is what the fuck I do, it's the plant I connect with, that seems to come through too,
Bro, I
you know.
used to be like that. I mean, I used to wake
Yeah.
and bake. I think people, a lot of times, for me to be a responsible user of substances in general, substances, supplements, everything, I had to go through stages like that where I was irresponsible and I had to learn from those lessons so I could become responsible. And so with weed, I did blow down every day, all day, wake and bake. I mean, I was at a point where I was rolling up 10 times a day, literally, whether it be blunt, spliff, wood, J, it don't matter. Like I'm blowing up all day, every day, just blowing down. I used to be that guy in college of, how many, there's people who was like, oh, weed helps me study. It helps me study. Like I retain information better when I study. I need to go to class when I'm high because I need to learn and absorb all the information. It doesn't work like that. Like at least for me, I tried to tell myself like that, and even after lying to myself for so long, I finally was like, nah, this does not help me. I can't be high when I'm doing schoolwork, stuff like that. So you have to go through realizations, or like Adderall. Like, dude, I've had those nights where was up all night, took like 150 milligrams of Adderall, bro, for a whole day. And then I ended up barring out because I'll take like a Tizolam to balance out the anxiety. And then by, in like 5 a.m., it'll be like, I'll be like 3 mils down on the Tizolam. And then I'll like go to the grocery store, get a bunch of groceries, and like forget I even did it because I'm barred out because I stayed up all night doing Adderall and then taking a Tiz for the anxiety. So it's just like a never ending cycle. Um, when you do that shit. So that's why when you go through those stages, you learn from that.
Yeah.
And so then you can become a responsible user. Because I admit, like, I remember my freshman year of college, I did acid 5 days out of the spring break. That was 10 days. Just, I wouldn't do that anymore. Like, that's just not me. I've had some crazy stories on different stuff, man. And I'm glad I endured all that and went through it and experienced that because I learned from that. And yeah, I'm
Have
responsible
you have
now.
you ever heard of the story of I think the name of it is Icarus. It's like that Greek
Yes, 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 yes.
story. You know, the soaring like too close to the sun but not too close to the water. I get like the feeling that like drug use is a lot like that, right? Like it's completely disingenuous to disregard it and as a possible tool, and it's also disingenuous to not acknowledge the fact that most of us interact with some of them every single day. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, it
And so
really, it really is like a wave of frequencies. Drugs just, if you're sober, you're just going to live like this. That's like baseline. If you just vape or whatever, maybe you have like a little vape high and then it's going to like crash a little bit. Then you're going to take another hit, go back up. And it's like, or you could do like heroin, go really high and then really down. So it's really just where on the wave of baseline soberness do you want to be? And
Right.
that's how
And
it plays out.
it's like the sun to me, like, somewhere in between the sun and the water. It's like the sun to me there almost seems to like represent like that full blown, like I'm full sending it into the hedonism, whereas like the water sort of like in the baseline like represents this complete kind of like I said, neglect and disregard of that side of yourself, and neither one of those feel great. I think either one of those realities both kind of feel like not optimal and not great. Whereas if you can find yourself in the middle, I truly think that it's sort of like a paradise zone. It's so great when you find yourself in the middle. But I'll be honest, man, I found myself on all ends of that spectrum, and I can see how it's tricky for other human beings to find their like. And it's so hard. That's the thing with drugs and addiction and all of this. That's so difficult. It's kind of like I said a minute ago. Like we can only speak from our perspectives. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Agreed, man. And it's also difficult because drugs affect everyone differently. So someone could have a completely different experience. Maybe going through those experiences makes them that they're not able to do drugs at all, because if they do it, they'll go back into that. Or some people can go through the same experience and then learn from that experience and then go from there and operate differently because you had that experience. So everyone's different, man. There's no one advice that can be used for every single person. Some people can do it responsibly, some people can't, and it could be genes that play a factor.
it's like one of the cases that you can make for drug. There's a lot of different cases you can make for like drug use, but like of course, there's a long-standing like we can point to this with archaeological data that like human beings have been doing this for a long period of time, especially hallucinogenic drugs. But like, um, there's these areas of the world called blue zones. Have you heard of blue zones?
Enlighten me.
So there are these little pockets of the world with these populations of people who have, for whatever various reasons, lived across the board, usually very long, healthy, happy lives. And so they've studied these areas of the world to kind of try and find out, like, all right, what's like leading to that for people? Because if we're going to try and like optimize our world, like what better way than try to let people lead long, healthy, happy lives, right? So blue zones, and like one of the commonality in a lot of these different blue zones is the long-standing use of different psychoactive things, and usually daily use of them. And it's usually not in a over-the-top manner. A lot of times, like we have a glass of like local farmed wine every night, a few glasses of this, or a few glasses every day at lunch together of wine, and we smoke cigarettes fucking repeatedly all day long. There's just one town in Italy, dude, where they're blown away because the entire population is like living to be like over 100 years old, and they've all been chiefing cigarettes for like 90 years. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? Like,
And
yeah,
eating
and,
that
and
pasta too, just
but they find these commonalities, and like a big commonality is like they eat a lot of fucking vitamin C. They seem to be have these tight knit communities where there's not a lot of stress, and they love each other a lot and shit. And so yeah, of course they're living long. And it's like on top of that, it's like, yeah, cigarettes aren't the best delivery mechanism, but it does seem like nicotine holds these like really interesting nootropic, neuroprotective like properties to it. And so like of course it's helping people live into their longer years. And so yes, nicotine is one of those ones, like it can be super addictive. I know people who have come off of both heroin and have come off of nicotine, and the two different people I know of this have both said that nicotine withdrawal is worse, right? So nicotine's super addictive. But
hmm.
yet there's a case to make that the everyday long-standing use of it might be beneficial. And I'm not saying that for everybody. I'm not a fucking doctor, even though I don't think they're the ones to listen to. But yeah, dude.
It's really the administration method that is where nicotine has its downsides. Because, for example, with cigarettes, there's 7,000 chemicals in there, so you're getting that and the nicotine. If you took a nicotine patch, that could possibly be a valid nootropic due to the fact that you're just putting a patch on yourself. You're not ingesting anything. You're not ingesting any carcinogens. Even with vapes, we don't know what's up with that. So like vapes still have
Yeah.
a bunch of shit in there as well. I personally, I like smoking cigs, like especially like drunk cigs. I went through a phase with vapes. I had a vape for 7 months, and then I just didn't buy another one after like that cycle of buying vapes. But I'll still hit other people's vapes, and then I'll still hit people's cigarettes at parties and whatnot. I do smoke nicotine every day in the form of cigarillos, whether it's in a blunt or by itself. Other than that, it is a valid nootropic 100%. It's just the administration method where it has carcinogens possibly. With the Italians, them smoking the cigs, I mean, if they're living a healthy life and they're not smoking 20 cigs a day, I'm sure they're smoking maybe like four
They're
or five.
smoking like 40, bro. Like
40?
it was, dude. These motherfuckers, it was hilarious. Like
That's
there was
crazy, bro.
so it's. I think this whole thing started off as like a book and like this research that went into it, and then there was like, of course, they did like the whole podcasting circuit, and like different people have referenced them in a lot of different communities. And then I
Respect
think
to them, bro.
there was like a Netflix documentary about it too. But yeah, these motherfuckers just chief cigarettes, some of them, and they're living to be very long. Like, and it's kind of my nana. My nana's the same way. She's been chiefing cigarettes for fucking like 80 years now, dude, and she's
Dog.
fucking been on a ventilator for 10 years, fucking in her 80s, and she's still going, still smoking cigarettes. She's pickled herself somehow. I don't get it.
I feel that, bro. Similar, my grandma's. My grandma also smokes cigs and drinks a shit ton of caffeine every day, and she's going strong. So
Dude, the caffeine's also a nootropic,
yeah,
neuroprotective properties.
another nootropic slash drug
Yeah,
slash potential brain booster.
yeah, dude. So like anybody who like comes on your channel and stuff, they see you reviewing all these different supplements and drugs and talking about the matrix around them and telling your own personal like experiments with them. Like what kind of threw you into that, man? What sparked your interest in all of this? Because a lot of people experiment with different things, but I really liked you, dude, because you reminded me a lot of myself, and you had I could tell a particular fascination with these things that you took it to another level. And I think it's really important because, like I said, like earlier, if you don't take drugs every day yourself, some sort of drug every day yourself, which most people do, then you know somebody who does. Like these things are so fucking permeated throughout our society, yet a lot of times it's this very taboo thing. There's a lot of times people take, like, have you ever met somebody who's prescribed medication and you'll ask them what they take and they don't even know the name of it? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, like I think it does this. That to me is scary, man. That's very common. So like what kind of like sparked your interest in all this and made you feel the desire to make this type of content and stuff like that?
So that's a somewhat of a deep question because as when I graduated college, I was like, yo, like what the fuck am I gonna try and do? Like I just want to like pursue some sort of creative endeavor. So I thought, do I want to pursue music or become a content creator or do both? And so I figured it would be easier to become a content creator first. So I started in April 2022 or 2020, and then I made a podcast basically to teach myself how to make videos, so I could cut it up in clips and then teach myself how to edit and make videos. All those videos are not private. I mean, I think they're, unless you can find them somewhere in a playlist. But regardless, I started a podcast to show myself how to create videos, and then I ditched the podcast after like episode 3 and started just making substance videos because now I knew how to make videos. So I'm like, okay, I want to review. I was taking all these fucking drugs. I mean, I've taken so many fucking drugs in my life. So it was just something I was passionate about, and I feel like I had a lot of knowledge on it, and I just wanted, that's where I could start and share and start this journey of. And then so I did hard drugs for a long time. I did maybe for like 2 years. Did a lot of those, but then my channel got completely demonetized for promoting harmful content and dangerous acts, whatever it may be. And so that was an ongoing battle. I never thought if I would get that back. So I eventually was like, okay, well, I've covered so many fucking drugs. I'm demonetized now. Maybe I should start covering like supplements and nootropics, because I also take a fuck ton of supplements and nootropics as well every day. But the hard drugs is like what I was kind of doing at the time. So then I kind of switched over to nootropics for a bit, just to like, I also clean up my channel and just make it look actually professional. And so at this point now, I don't I cover whatever, but at this point I've covered over 150 different drugs and supplements, and I'm very proud of the work. It's like a encyclopedia of drugs, and if I always tell people, if you have a question about any drug, don't even ask me. Just type my name in the drug in the search bar, and you'll find that fucking video. I probably covered it. But
Yeah,
my
yeah, dude.
passion from it comes from being passionate about it in real life. Like I'm about it, man. So like, why not share it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. And like, when I look at other people who create content and go on this sort of creative endeavor, what seems to be, what seems to like stick and actually be valuable is people who take things that they're interested in or have had real hand experience with, and they, through the accumulation of all the interest and research and real life experience, they're able to distill it down for people. And I feel like in a way that's kind of like what you've been doing and stuff. And I think it's cool, dude. I think it's cool. And I think it's gonna segue interestingly into whatever it is you do next. Like regardless, if you really want to be a music person, like I think you're gonna steer yourself into that reality. But like, I think it's gonna, I don't know, dude, like I started fucking making videos around the same time, like 2020 ish, on my in my fucking parents' basement on my iPhone, and like I was saying at the beginning of this, that it's like opened up doors in a really weird way and stuff. But
Dude, I
okay,
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that a lot.
yeah,
I
dude,
try and
yeah,
put like just I don't really care about the views either. Like if it does good or bad, like I just want to put it out there because it's something that I'm. I feel like when I'm making videos, I'm following God, and I feel like it's just something good.
I love that you're following God, bro. It's like every time I make, like anytime I make a video or like this podcast that I'll be putting out and stuff, like, because all of them come from a place like this is what I want to do, this is what I want to put out there, and so it feels like a node to God.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying? Like a little gift. When it comes from that real place,
I agree.
it does. Yeah,
I'm always gonna make substance videos, so like I'm always gonna sprinkle them in and just make them because that is what I'm passionate about. It's just one of the many things I'm passionate about. I don't know if I'm gonna be strictly only drug education because I've reviewed so many drugs. So what other ones are there to review other than like all the abstract RCs that come out? A new one comes out every day, like 10 of them come out every day. And no, this new RC, dude. There's so many RCs. I've reviewed many of them as well. I think I'm just like, what else is there to review? And if there is, I'm fucking gonna review it. But I'm also gonna like still stick in the scene. Like I'm always gonna make related videos, not just drug education. Maybe like some news happens, I'll react to it. But because I'm
yeah.
about it, bro. Like I love it. I love everything about it. I love.
Have you reviewed Amanita yet?
Yeah. Amanita Muscaria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
So I haven't taken it myself. I made a video review on it. That's one of the few that I haven't taken.
Uh huh.
And so I don't know how to personally review it, but I just know that it's like the very popular legal psychedelic mushroom that the Mario mushroom, Alice in Wonderland, Rudolph the Rain knows. Rudolph had something to do with it. I think he like ate the mushrooms or whatever. It's just like in pop culture, that's what I know. But I know you sell it too. I know you sell it too.
Yeah. I was gonna say, man, our company sells it, and like there's a lot there's been a lot of misinformation and misrepresentation of Amanita, and it has a lot of interesting psychoactivity to it. It has a lot of interesting sort of therapeutic properties to it. Of course, like anything else, it do really really large doses, wrong place. Like it can be problematic, but it's also like in its own way extremely unique, dude. Like I'm gonna can I send you some to try?
I'd be down, bro. Dude,
Okay.
I would like to like I remember you asked me about it earlier and like the only thing on my channel like I got demonetized for so long. I'm so scared to promote anything other than like an Amazon link because and also like one of the people that I know in the scene, he got demonetized as well for promoting like other websites that had like supplement nootropic shit. So it's just I'm very like cautious about that. And like Goblin got
Oh yeah, dude.
demonetized for promoting like weed stuff. But I
You don't
would
have to
be
promote us or anything. I wouldn't want to put you like you at like in like if you ultimately ended up wanting to at some point or something, we can talk. But like, yeah, I'll just send you some stuff to try, dude. I want to see what
word.
you had to say about it.
I'm down, bro. I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. That's yeah. The fucking like it's Amanita in particular has got a weird sort of censorship around it. You wouldn't believe the fucking network, like the systems I've had to create to get us on a Meta and fucking Google Ads.
I bet,
Like
bro. Now that I
Yeah,
think about
dude.
it, like, yeah, that makes sense, man.
There's a lot of weird censorship around. We've had two or three different Instagram accounts deleted. We've had two TikTok accounts deleted. We had a YouTube channel deleted. I will say we've partnered now. We've collaborated with a bunch of different influencers and haven't had any issues on anybody other else's account through any of these other collaborations. It's always been our own personal business accounts and stuff that have had the issue. But we're actually, but yeah, dude, the Amanita, it's like, so you like ketamine, right?
I
You
do.
enjoy do you do you enjoy large doses of ketamine?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's
I
very
see.
safe. Ketamine's so safe, dude. You just fucking K-hole and just
Mhm.
stare at the ceiling. It's not.
I love both the smaller and larger doses of ketamine. I love the full spectrum myself too. Amanita muscaria, a lot of people, there's this sentiment pushed forth about it that it's toxic or poisonous, and most of this comes from the fact that it contains something called ibotenic acid. And if you're like new to ibotenic acid and you take a very large amount, it can make you like fucking vomit and muscle twitchy, on top of the fact that you'll be in this very deliriated state from the full spectrum of alkaloids and things going on. But ibotenic acid, like, um dude, it's very dissociative in this weird way. Like,
Interesting.
it's, yeah, dude. And when you take larger doses of it, I like larger doses of it raw, Amanita, and I'm not encouraging that other people to do that. I think if you do want to do that, start small, work your way up. But I like larger doses of it, and it does feel more ketamine like at larger doses. It's like this really. I struggle to put the ketamine experience into words. I think most human beings do, but like, there's this weird fucking like sliver or like pocket of the universe that you can kind of get yourself into. And I know that's not a great way of putting it, but like, there's this place you go to, and like ibotenic acid, you also go into this weird sliver of the universe too when you take a high enough dose. On top of this, it's like really fucking good for your sleep, Amanita. It's got this like very functional anxiolytic effect where it's like you're very much just in the flow state. Anxiety is very much diminished, but it doesn't come with like if I take like a benzo or something like that, and part of this is due to like tolerance and different things, but like I'm gonna have a more GABAergic sledgehammer like that. I am gonna not be anxious, but it's gonna be paired with sometimes like kind of more like tiredness and grogginess and things like that. But the sort of like weird fucking receptor site shotgun formula that Amanita is, it seems to both be like GABAergic and glutamatergic at the same time, while also playing on your acetylcholine receptors. So it looks like it's probably this really kind of like potent nootropic as well too. Has like anti-inflammatory properties to it. I truly think it's like the Christ mushroom. I'm sorry that I just went on some long rant or whatever, but
It's very
yeah, dude,
interesting.
I want you to try some, because you've tried a lot of different things, and I think this is one of the most underrated, misrepresented ones.
Dude, that sounds
Yeah,
like a fucking plan, dude. I am down.
yeah, yeah, dude. One more. Have you tried Blue Lotus?
I have tried Blue Lotus, yes.
Do you like Blue Lotus?
It wasn't as potent as I thought it would be.
Did you try? Have you tried taking a large amount of some extract orally?
No, no, I've
I'm
only
a
smoked it.
I'm gonna hook you up with that too. We make gummies with the extract. I was the same way. I had like smoked Blue Lotus and like tried. I tried smoking it. I had tried soaking it in some vodka at one point. I tried a few different methods with the full flower, and I thought like at one point when I had smoked a lot of it that I felt something, but like I didn't really. I never. I thought it was kind of like bullshit, very not bullshit, but very kind of like maybe sugar pillish, maybe very. Uh, Light psychoactivity. But then I tried a large amount of the extract orally, and it's, dude, I'm telling you, if you take enough, it feels like MDMA light. Like, it's very empathogenic,
Interesting.
very lovey dovey. Whenever I did this for the first time and took enough, it was like 3 grams of extract that I took in total. But I was like laid out on my couch in this like blissful state, fucking just feeling super lovey dovey. And this lovey dovey and pathogenic feel was matched with like all of these like insightful thoughts and different things that I was having. It was definitely like a different state of consciousness that I was in. And I think that most people who I've talked to have said the same thing you just did about Blue Lotus, where they're like, I've tried it. I think I kind of felt it. I'm like, I think most people haven't taken enough. When you take enough, dude, I swear it's like MDMA light. My favorite thing about it though, it pairs well. It is the most synergistic fucking drug that I've ever tried. Like it synergizes with literally everything. It seems like perfectly. It synergizes with cannabis beautifully. It synergizes with meditation amazingly. It synergizes with serotonergic psychedelics in this really awesome way because it adds that empathogenic MDMA kind of twist to the experience. Yeah,
It
dude,
almost sounds
it's
like pre-gab on how it's synergistic with nearly every substance.
well, so like yeah, and like with Blue Lotus, it's like two primary sort of alkaloids that they think are kind of like contributing to the psychoactivity, and it's nuciferine and apomorphine, right? Um, and they have like such weird receptor site activity that's still being uncovered and they don't fully understand. And there's like some both like dopaminergic activity and serotonergic activity involved and norepinephrine, all sorts of crazy shit. So
Apomorphine,
yeah,
that's the Blue Lotus one that I'm familiar with.
yeah, yeah, dude.
Dude, my cat's
But
just been chilling here with me the whole time. Really good
really,
cat. Yeah.
I love cats, dude.
Cats
I
are lit,
love cats.
man.
I've people say that they're like I'm a dog person or I'm a cat person, but I've always said that I'm a dog and cat person. Like
I'm both as well.
yeah, I appreciate them in their own ways. You know what I mean? Like,
Cat,
but
exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, man. Cats are low maintenance, so that's the good thing about it. And that's why I don't have a dog yet. I've had dogs when I grew up, same with cats. So I like them both, but cats are pretty easy for me to take care of, relatively easy. So they're nice.
I had this experience one time. I was on 2CB and ketamine, and I was hanging out with my ex girlfriend, and we're just laying there in her bed, and we're on the 2C and ketamine, and she had a couple of cats, and one of the cats jumped up on my chest and like started making biscuits, and I like looked at the cat, and it was so clear to me in this moment, dude, that like the cat looked so divine, and I saw the divinity in it, and I was like. You know that thing they say about like the Egyptians praised cats and like worship cats, and like in that moment, I fully understood it. And I feel like in this weird way, I've always kind of looked at cats slightly different after
Wow,
that. Yeah,
that's
after that
beautiful,
two
man.
scene.
That's
Yeah,
great.
dude. It
uh,
was fun.
yeah, man.
But
The kitties are nice. He just be chilling.
what's his name?
This guy's Ziggy.
Ziggy. That's a good name.
Hello, Ziggy.
Meow.
Meow. Is he
Meow.
saying something? Oh, you know what's. Oh, did you hear that?
I did.
Oh,
Meow.
he
There's one of my
knows.
cats, dude. We'll just go back and forth with each other.
Dude, I
Me and
trained
her.
him how to walk outside with me next to me without a leash.
Are you serious?
People can't even do that with dogs, bro. I got Ziggy doing it.
That's badass, dude. I saw this video. My girlfriend showed it to me. It was like yesterday. But it was on TikTok. This lady had potty trained her cat. Like she had this whole system for how she taught her cat how to shit, like go to bathroom in the toilet and then flush it.
Oh, and flush it too. I've seen that.
It's
You can get the it's like a porta potty or not a porta potty. A potty lid that you put on top of it that has like rings on it that you increasingly shrink until they learn how to
mhm.
use the toilet.
Yeah, yeah, dude. That would be pretty
That's funny though.
badass.
That's
Yeah,
funny. At one point, I'll get
but
a good dog. I need like a fenced-in yard if I'm going to get a dog.
yeah, yeah.
Because
I think I
if not,
want.
you have to walk them like twice a day.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm the same way. It's like I'm not going to get a dog until I know I have the full ability to give them all the things that they need. But I want a golden retriever. I had a golden retriever whenever I was in high school, and
Those are
he
my
was
favorite
his.
types of dogs. Those and
They're so
labs I
good, dude.
love.
Me too, man. Those are my favorites too, bro.
Yeah.
Goldens and labs. Yeah, we always had goldens and labs growing up as well. But yeah, bro. Well, dude, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything else you want to tell the people, leave the audience with, or anything before we peace out for the day?
Dude, I had a really fun time. maybe we do this
Yeah, man.
again some point. But I'm definitely
Yeah,
down to try like whatever you send me. It was beautiful meeting you, Gabe. It's the first time
Yeah,
I've
man.
seen you, so or like talking.
Yeah,
to you.
dude.
But yeah,
It was
man.
really nice meeting you too, man. Yeah, I've watched your shit for a long time, so it's cool.
Hell yeah,
Getting
bro.
to connect like this, bro. But yeah, we'll do it again, man.
Word up. But yo, hey,
All right.
also everyone follow me at my YouTube channel, Lowkey Fish, Instagram Lowkey_fish, X Lowkey_fish on all that shit. Follow Gabe. He's the goddamn man. That was fucking good, Gabe. Thank you so much.
I'll leave all of his stuff down in the description and stuff like that. But yeah,
I
peace
appreciate
out, guys.
the good vibes. Peace.
Much love.